Hello, and welcome to week 7 of the semester. In this week's presentation, Joanna and I will be reviewing adult learning and the brain. As we move through today's message, we will explore the connections of cognitive functioning to adult learning in the digital age using neuroscience. This discussion includes the importance of how the brain influences learning, the implications of memory, and how learning changes as we age. Let's talk about how the brain works in different areas. The triune brain consists of 3 areas, each having different function in the processing of information. First is known as the reptilian brain, which is at the base of the skull next to the spinal cord. It's the oldest and most primitive part of the brain, also found in reptilians, birds, and mammals. This part of the brain reacts instinctively to perceived danger, what most of us has heard of as the fight or flight response. The second area is the limbic system. The limbic system is responsible for our basic value system, enhancing or suppressing short-term memory, and determining how the brain will respond to the information that's received. Macaracker explains through the limbic system, the emotional content of an experience is processed before meaning is processed. We may consider ourselves to be thinking creatures that feel, but biologically we are feeling creatures that think, which explains a lot about what we've learned so far in the adult learning program. The limbic system wraps around the reptilian brain, taking in sensory data and converting it to units to be processed in the neocortex, the third and outermost part of the triune brain, an area that's distinct to primates and humans. If we had to locate the mind, the neocortex would be it. It reasons, it plans, it worries. Neocortex is essentially the control tower of the human thinking and activity. Next, we'll look at the hemispheric brain, including the left and right hemispheres. Interestingly, the left half of the brain controls the right half of the body, and vice versa. Each half has distinctly different mental functions. Have you ever considered which hemisphere is more dominant for you? While our education system tends to favor the verbal and analytical strengths of the left brain, it is important to note that the learning is maximized when strengths of both sides of the brain are activated. With the various areas of the brain being responsible for different cognitive functions, another one of the brain's activities is memory. Have you ever thought to yourself, if a process were easier, then I'd be more likely to remember it? Actually, that's not the case. While your brain may be in use during easy and routine processes, that usage is not considered learning. The brain learns when it's challenged. Information coming in goes through the neocortex to be stored into memory. However, what we process versus what we remember may depend on our feelings at the time, a characteristic of the limbic system. When we discussed transformative learning, we discovered that our emotions are a trigger for learning. Travis Bradberry and Jean Greaves take us deeper into how our emotions, thoughts, and intelligence connect. Since our brains are wired to make us emotional creatures, your first reaction to an event is always going to be an emotional one. You have no control over this part of the process. You do, however, have control over the thoughts that follow and how you react, so long as you're aware of it. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, is your ability to recognize and understand emotions in yourself and in others, and your ability to use this awareness to manage your behavior in relationships. Cognitive intelligence, or IQ, is the ability to learn. In a school setting, an intelligent person might be defined as one who learns easily and seems to remember what they learned more readily than others. Cattell and Horn reasoned that fluid and crystallized intelligence had the most influence. Fluid intelligence is hardwired, dependent on the central nervous system. Crystallized intelligence is dependent on life experience and education. Consider that culture and context play a role in shaping what is deemed to be intelligent, and that intelligence might be more than verbal and analytical reasoning. When we think about emotional intelligence, Goleman argued that success in life is equally, if not more, dependent on how well one understands and employs emotions that are more than academic aspects of IQ. The 4 key areas of emotional intelligence are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. The rational area of your brain, or the front of your brain, can't stop the emotion that's felt by your limbic system. But the 2 areas do influence each other and maintain constant communication. Memory plays a part in what information we can recall. If there are similar events, our brain retrieves many or all of these events and creates some composite mixture of them without us even knowing it. If there are no similar events, the unique one is easily distinguished and we are able to recollect it. To further cement our memory and recall, we can turn to storytelling. McGregor and Holmes illuminate storytelling impacts our memory. They indicate that our stories are built around skeletons or framework. We remember and reconstruct information that reinforces the story. In Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, he describes System 1 and System 2 thinking. System 1 is the faster of the two and operates automatically and quickly with little or no effort. It infers and invents causes and intentions. System 2 thinking is the slower of the two. It is mobilized when a question arises for which System 1 does not offer an answer. It is credited to the continuous monitoring of our behavior. It is the control that keeps you polite when you're angry, and the alert that keeps you driving when it's late. Here's an exercise to test your memory. Read the following words out loud, and feel free to pause the recording should you need another moment. Now write down as many words as you can remember without looking back. Again, you may need to pause the presentation. Which words did you recall? Did you write down rest? What about night? How many of you wrote down sleep? 85% of people write down rest because it's the first word and it's consistent with the primacy effect of memory. 70% remember the word night. It's the last word you saw and consistent with the recency effect. 60% of people tested write down the word sleep, but sleep isn't even on the list. This is a false memory. The word sleep is activated because other words are related to sleep. When do we remember things? According to Nolan and Thomas, the sensitive period is the period in which our brain is the most responsive to input from the environment, or it's most flexible or plastic. Changes in plasticity are not linked to chronological age but dependent upon experience. The system remains plastic until it has sufficient experience. The notion of the brain as a social organ emerged in the 1970s. And Cozzolino and Sporoke further this concept in that the brain is innately designed to learn through shared experience. This concept of the social brain moves us beyond our own experiences as an individual and suggests that we need others to help us feel safe and to make sense of the world around us. Our brains grow best in the context of interactive discovery and development of stories that shape and support our memories. As we age, the brain passes through various ways of perceiving, organizing, and learning. Key principles of learning are the same across the lifespan. A safe and trusting relationship, maintenance of moderate levels of brain arousal, activation of both thinking and feeling, a language of self-reflection, construction of a narrative that reflects a positive and optimistic self. The attention of a caring, aware mentor may support plasticity that leads to better, more meaningful learning. In taking the experience of a learner a step further, we should consider how experience affects consciousness in learning environments. During experiences, our brains connect neurons together, creating neural pathways, many of which are genetically programmed, such as the signal for the heartbeat. Other connections are in response to an experience or stimulation in the environment that triggered a change of body state. More simply stated, neurons that are fired together are wired together. The more repetitions and the more intense an event we have causing a change of body state, the more likely the brain is to remember the fired together, wired together experience. To the adult learner, whose brains are full of unique experiences, the brain will spark in action the reservoir of change of body state based on the fired together, wired together episodes in a multidirectional consciousness, which will then be used to respond to questions, tasks, or interactions. Our recommendations and lifelong learning implications are: practice is crucial if the goal is to achieve autonomy or neural pathways. Motivation to achieve and attention to stimuli are necessary aspects of learning in adulthood. Feedback on performance serves as a similar function and may be particularly important for older adults. learning from a live tutor and actively engaging with materials rather than relying on a passive presentation enhances learning. Reduce variability in the classroom by working on fundamentals first. And lastly, get a good night's sleep. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you on the discussion boards. These questions will be posted there for further consideration.